So it truly has become this snowball where I feel like I actually told my team, sometimes I feel like we're on a runaway track because it's going so fast and just so many things and opportunities are coming. And, now we're at a point where we launched in September of 2019. So we're, a year and a half in, going on almost 2 years. We're now saying no to opportunities, which is really exciting for me because that's just new. Well, I mean, before we were like, yes to anything. And now we're really focusing on what is like really going to grow the business.
Brands, we need to talk. It's time to start texting your customers. Yotpo, the leading e-commerce marketing platform, has the most advanced SMS marketing solution to reach customers where they are on their phones. Yotpo enables brands to build unbeatable targeted SMS experiences to create customer connections and drive revenue fast. Visit yotpo.com, that's YOTPO.com, and get personal with SMS marketing today. Hello and welcome to the D2C podcast. I'm Eric Dick, and today we are super lucky to be diving deep with Tara Williams, founder and CEO of Dreamland Baby Co., the world's first safety certified weighted blanket designed for infants and toddlers. Tara is the matriarch of a family of 6 on a mission to help parents and children get more, better sleep. Welcome to the D2C podcast, Tara. Can you start by giving me your brand's origin story?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It all started when my son was 6 months old and he was still waking up every hour and a half. It's like a newborn if you've had kids. And I was exhausted. And at the time, I had 3 other children who were 3, 4, and 5. So it was just total chaos in our house and our family. And one night I just laid a heavy throw blanket on our couch on top of him, and I noticed he immediately calmed down. It was just this like instant moment where he was calm. And so I thought, oh, he needs a weighted blanket. And for me, like that was my light bulb moment. But I thought it already existed. So I raced over to the computer. I got on Google and I was like, this is confusing. It's not coming up. And then I looked on Amazon and I was super shocked that there was nothing in a wearable fashion that's safe, like what is our product today. So I called my mother-in-law and she sewed our first prototype. It was very clear in my mind. It's almost exactly what our current product looks like. And then a few weeks later, we got it back. First night he wore it, he slept for 12 hours. So it was this absolute sleep transformation to the point where we thought this has to be a fluke. But then the next night we tried it 12 hours, 12 hours. Here we are 2.5 years later, and we just keep making bigger sizes. So it was really an incredible, sleep success story.
You're dealing with such a great market. First of all, just parents will go to the ends of the world to buy anything if they think their kids will like it or will benefit from it or will be educated by it. But you're in this amazing sweet spot of like solving parents' major pain points, like getting sleep, and also providing a product that enriches the baby's life, the baby's sleep. How has the growth been in this perfect storm of a market you found yourself in?
I've worked for a couple other startups. This is my first personal start, well, my first successful one, I should say. So to me, it just seems like this is what it is. But I do recognize that, we've been incredibly lucky with things like SharkTank and, we got into some major retailers like Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, Target, like really early on. So there's been some luck aspect, but it's a product that, yes, you hit the nail on the head. Like parents aren't sleeping, their babies not sleeping. It's a crisis for the whole family. And we're able to offer a solution that works so well. And, our story with that immediate first night success is very common. It's not every baby, but it happens with a lot. And I would say the babies who don't have that immediate success, it's within the first week, right? So you have these parents who are desperate, just like I was. And then all of a sudden for $79, right, which is seemingly insignificant, and the product lasts for 6 months, now they have their life back. Now they're sleeping through the night. So they are telling everybody they know. Like I literally probably told, I was picking my kids up at school. I'm like, I don't know you, but I'm sleeping through the night now. And they're like, okay. So when you have something that's so incredible and it's so helpful, like you're telling people, so it truly has become this snowball where I feel like I actually told my team, sometimes I feel like we're on a runaway track because it's going so fast and just so many things and opportunities are coming. And, now we're at a point where we launched in September of 2019. So we're, a year and a half in, going on almost 2 years. We're now saying no to opportunities, which is really exciting for me because that's just new. Well, I mean, before we were like, yes to anything. And now we're really focusing on what is like really going to grow the business. So yeah, I mean, it's really like word of mouth. I would say that is our number one way that the product's moving.
It's yeah, I can only imagine how powerful that is. Given the testimonials I saw here, that even in your, when you basically knocked up some prototypes, bad choice of words, when you made up some prototypes, and distributed them to friends and family, like they saw the same results pretty quick as well.
Yeah. So what's so interesting, like I said earlier, I mean, the product that is on the market today looks a lot more beautiful. It's more refined. It's better, quality and stitching and material. Like all the things have been improved, but the core of what it is the exact same thing that was that was like in my mind that my mother-in-law created. So the utility portion of it is the same, more or less. So we did we had such incredible sleep success with us. And then when I knew that the product was something that I wanted to take to market or like become a business, it was immediately people started asking me if my mother-in-law would make one for them. That's when I was like, oh my gosh, this and really like, not to get too depressing or dark, but it was a really bad period of my life. Like to make it even worse, my husband was actually laid off from his job of 15 years the day before my son was born. And then when I was on maternity leave, my company, I was at the startup, they shut their doors. So we were both, which is like crazy timing. We were both laid off. We have 4 kids, 5 and under. I mean, one is just relentlessly crying all through the night. Like it was probably the worst 6 months of my life. And then if we contrast that and, the layoffs and things, those were super stressful also. But if we contrast that to the first 6 months of life for my other 3 kids, like I loved that. They slept really well. They were, not every baby's a terrible sleeper. A lot are. I think I got really lucky. And that's why my first 3 are all a year apart. But that was such a joyful time for me and my family. And I loved being a mom and having these young kids and these babies and the snuggles. And then when I compare that to my son, Luke, like I never had postpartum depression, but I was angry. I was angry at him all the time because I was like, you were not sleeping. And then I was yelling at my kids. I was a bad friend. I was a bad wife, mother, and to kind of go through this really dark period but then know like what it's like if you are sleeping and it could be amazing. I looked at it as an opportunity to say, we have this product that can help families always have that first experience that I had. Like this can be a super happy time. You're home on maternity leave, you have a new baby. Like this should be one of the happiest times of your life. And if we have a product that can give that to families, like this is something the world has to know about.
Yeah.
So
You owe it to the world.
I owe it. I felt like that. I was like, I'm doing it to service. If like, even my mother-in-law, she said, no way. So these are our products, even today, mass produced, they're still hand stitched. So they take an incredibly long time to make. I mean, individually, one at a time, because there's over 50 pockets and it can't go under a machine because the needle would hit the beads and it would break. So they're actually hand stitched and somebody is moving the beads and stitching it by hand. So they're very labor intensive to make. So she said, no way. She was not making any more. But I remember I had a friend that was super desperate. She was like, please, please. And so I actually let her borrow mine and she was like, I'm not giving it back. And I'm like, no, I need it. So it became this weird thing where like everybody wanted one all of a sudden. So I did find a local manufacturer who made a batch of 10. We gave them out and 9 out of those 10 babies had that like incredible, immediate, within the first week, like super success. And these were terrible, terrible sleepers. So after that small sample size, then I was like, let's go, let's do this. Let's like bring this to the world.
Unbelievable. So I wanted to ask about, so when this was already, because it's funny, like, I think we bought our daughter a weighted blanket. I think when she was a little bit older, when she kind of moved into her own bed, and that was a big success. But we didn't see these sort of like weighted sleepers on the market. I know one of your big product differentiators is A, that it's wearable, and B, that it's safety certified. And I wanted to ask what that process was like of actually getting something safety certified for kids, because that must be the gold standard in terms of certification.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are tons of swaddles and there's tons of sleep sacks on the market, but ours is the only one that has an even distribution of weight, which makes it really unique because it's weighted from the shoulder all the way down to the toe, just like your daughter's weighted blanket. It's the same exact concept. And then because it's wearable, it's safe where, it can't migrate on the baby's face. So in the US, we follow the American Academy of Pediatric guidelines, and that says no babies under the age of 2 in a crib have a loose blanket. You wear the blanket, wearable blanket or sleep sack. So that's what makes ours really unique. For the CPSC, that is like it's a very extensive, and it is for any product, right? So you have to do it's beyond just, the basics of like, is it a good material? Is it going to fall apart after washing? But it's looking at like the lead in the zipper. It's like torque testing, like could the zipper break off? The construction, like are the beads going to fall out? What are the beads made of? They have to be non-toxic. So it's like looking at every single aspect, but we went even above and beyond that. I mean, our product is like Oikotech Standard 100 certified. We have approval from the International Hip Dysplasia Society. We truly went after like any single certifications, applications, anything. And part of that is my background. So I spent 10 years in medical device market development, and I stood in operating rooms. I lived and breathed clinical trials. And so I came at this really from probably a different lens than most. If you're just a mom, or I shouldn't ever say just a mom, because that is the hardest job in the world. But if you are a mom, or if you're a designer, or, whatever other background you might have, like mine was really clinical and scientific. So we partnered with pediatricians, pulmonologists, NICU nurses, certified sleep consultants. Like we really wanted to make sure everything about this was safe. And I did not bring it to market until there was a clinical trial that was done. And it was published in October of 2018. It looked at infants in the NICU, and it used actually 20% body weight for the weighted blankets on the infants, and we used 10%. So we took what was existing from the clinical trial and then went conservative with it. So that's just, I recognize now, like this probably wouldn't be the path that most people would take. Like there has to be a clinical trial. But for me, with my background, I looked at this like, I'm used to implanting things into people's bodies, right? So I'm like, we're going with the same like safety stringentness of that for this product. So yeah, we definitely took a little bit of a probably overkill on the safety, but you can never be too safe. And at the end of the day, like I'm putting this on my child. So you better believe it was as safe as can possibly be.
And you're selling peace of mind across, peace of mind for the child and their future, sleep patterns, and peace of mind for the parents that they're doing all they can to help their child. So I think it makes a ton of sense to have invested all that you did into all those other aspects of peace of mind, just so you could be 100% sure. And as you buy it, like, do you display those badges like on the site prominently?
We probably should do a better job. It's somewhere if they, want to really look into like the safety and find
Yeah.
out the safety page. But, the interesting thing about it is I think when we first launched, we got some safety questions of the sense of like, oh my gosh, you're going to kill a baby by putting like these like very outlandish statements.
Mm.
And really what we realized, it was just a lack of education, not only on our product, but on weighted blankets in general. So for people who hadn't heard of a weighted blanket, they could not understand why you would put weight on anybody, right? And so particularly a baby. So that was confusing, I think, for people at first. But now we're going into mid 2021. I would venture to say that most people have heard of a weighted blanket, understand the concept. So we really don't get very many safety questions, almost at all.
Cool. What is the concept? I understand it as well. I understand. Is it just that having weight on you just makes you feel more safe and secure? Like, what's the actual concept why this works, do you think?
Yeah, no, there's like a true science behind it. And the interesting thing about weighted blankets, I mean, they have been used for like 40, 30, 50 years. This is not a new concept, but they were used in the autism community. So it was for people who have autism, they have a very hard time sleeping and settling down and relaxing. And so weighted blankets were used to help calm people. And the science behind it is with the even distribution of weight, you have receptors all over your body, these peroreceptors. And so they're basically activated, and it's called deep touch stimulation. And so it lowers cortisol, which is that fight or flight hormone. When you're upset and you're like, oh, you feel like you're gonna like run through a wall or something. It relaxes that, and then it increases melatonin, which is the sleep hormone, right? Like the over-the-counter melatonin a lot of people take, and then it increases serotonin. Serotonin is the hormone that you feel when you get a hug. So like if you hug somebody, you're getting like an immediate dopamine rush. It's a feel-good hormone. So that's like the science of what having weight on, and because it's evenly distributed throughout your body, it's an overall calm. I mean, as an adult, like if you put a weighted blanket on right now, you will feel it's instant, it's immediate. It's not something you have to get used to. Like you feel relaxed. So it's the same concept for kids. These are made for dogs. I mean, for babies, everybody who wears them. There's been so much, I don't know about in Canada, but in the US where, I mean, adult weighted blankets were claiming like, we can cure PTSD and we can cure anxiety and depression and restless leg syndrome. And it's not a cure, right? And the FDA said you can't claim a cure,
Mm-hmm.
but it could be a substitution for medication. So for some people, they have been able to get off sleep medication. Some people have been able to lower their dose, we don't have that in the baby, most babies aren't taking antidepressants, right? But if you look at like the conceptual values to it, it's the exact same thing for babies and adults and kids and, dogs, everybody else. So that's like the science part behind it.
Love it. Okay, so you mentioned Shark Tank, which is, we love chatting with brands who've had that experience and have been able to leverage it into their marketing. Can you walk through your Shark Tank experience and how you've leveraged it to grow the business?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I always think of it like one word. It's just once in a lifetime, or I guess a phrase. It was so crazy. It was magical. It was dreamlike. Like I was on a set, like I was a movie star for a day. It was a very surreal experience. The I've watched Shark Tank for 10 years. Like those are people I admire in business and on the show. And to be able to stand in front of them and pitch my product. And, the show shows 10 minutes, but I was in there for an hour and a half. So it is a true, like you are truly pitching your product. There's real money on the table. There's obviously nerves involved. There's cameras everywhere. Just a once in a lifetime experience. And to be able to go into the tank with people that I admire, that have incredible businesses that I've been watching for 10 years. And it's a true pitch. Like they show 10 minutes on TV, but I was in the tank for an hour and a half. So it's real and it's crazy. But we did make a deal with Lori Grenier, who was my dream shark. So that was super exciting. And then after the show, we got calls. We had reached out to a lot of these big box retailers, and I don't even think they responded. But then they reached out to us. So their buyers had seen us on Shark Tank. And so I think it was like Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's were the first two. And after that, it was just kind of a cascade. Like once you're in one, then they all want you to be in their store. So that was super helpful. And then we also could not have had better timing. We aired on a Friday night at 7 o'clock during a global pandemic when there was nothing to do on the season finale. And we made a deal. So it was just the perfect, all the pieces lined up. Again, and this is where I'm like, the luck piece comes in, because we're so fortunate with the timing, but 7 million people watched that night. So you can imagine, so many people bought it, and then they had great experiences and they shared. And so when I talk about that snowball, like that's when it really started rolling and moving. And we just had, people tagging friends on social media, like, look at this product, you should buy it. So it just, I mean, we would not be where we are today without having been on the show. And like, I always say that I will say we've worked really hard, we've got some lucky breaks, but that definitely like put us on the map to scale the way we're scaling now.
But you also wouldn't have been able to grow if you had that show and your product wasn't as dialed as your product has been, and the use case wasn't as apparent to everyone. It wouldn't have worked as well. So I hear in your story just again and again of just like having a novel concept that really truly helps people is what you start with, and then once you execute on that, it's like everything else becomes more valuable. It like we've heard of lots of shark stories where they didn't get maybe they didn't make a deal, but they were still able to leverage it into success with ads. But when you're able to make that deal and you're able to connect with that many people, I wanted to ask, like, obviously you've leveraged it into your marketing in an ongoing way, which is super smart. But when you what was the boost like on that Friday, like over that weekend? What kind of boost did you
Oh my
see
gosh,
in sales?
it was insane. I think like in that weekend, we had done more sales than we did in the whole year to date, like that year. It was crazy. Because again, 7 million people were watching. So a lot of people bought it. And again, like when, I've said the word luck quite a few times on this podcast, but so the way Shark Tank works, we filmed in September, and then they said it will air between January, and then the season finale is May 15th. So you can air anytime in there. So because of COVID, our inventory was super delayed, and we kept getting bumped off the line because the factories were making, I'm at a textile factory. So they were making like PPE gear and different things. And so I felt like it was every week my sourcing agent would call me and be like, I'm so sorry, like we're not starting yet. They said, we're going to push it 10 days. And then Chinese New Year was in there. So we were so delayed that Q1, like January, February, March, we hardly had any inventory. I mean, we did no marketing efforts. It was just like, if somebody came to our website and found us, like we tell them a product, but the second we turned marketing on, like we ran out of stock. So we had no inventory. And in March, I remember I saw so when you go, you're like kind of hanging out waiting to film, and you're there all day. And so you're with all the other entrepreneurs. And then obviously when I pitched, I remember what they were wearing. And so in March, I had seen that they aired people that I had had lunch with, and I remember, and I was like, oh my gosh. So then I was like, we didn't make it. Like we didn't, they didn't decide to choose us, because even though we filmed and we made a deal, there's still no guarantee you're going to air. You only find out 2 weeks prior. So I remember I emailed them and I said, hey, like I just saw everybody from my day. Like I'm assuming we didn't make it, but like, do you tell us either way if we don't? And they wrote back and they're like, hold the faith, like just hold on. And so I was like, what does that mean? Like it was cryptic. And so I figured we'd be on, but then every week I'd watch the show, and obviously 2 weeks prior, I know. So it was like the 2 weeks are going down. And now I'm like, unless we are on the season finale, like we didn't make it. And then I got the email and I was like, oh my God, like we are, because my husband kept saying like, maybe they're saving best for last. And I'm like, what are the odds of that? So it was so exciting. And it was we had waited from September until May. So it was like waiting and waiting and waiting, but we got we got 6 months worth of inventory in April. And so if we had aired in March, we would not have been able to sell anything, because at that point we didn't know when the inventory was coming. Wow. And it came in like literally, I think it was like almost to the day when we got the call that was like, you're going to go on in 2 weeks. It was the end of April. So we had so much inventory on hand. We still ran out. We ran out of 6 months of inventory, and we had another batch that was coming. So we had like a couple weeks where people had to wait. But I mean, again, like if we had been on in May, we would have just had to say sold out, because I had no idea when it was coming. So much of it is timing, and so much of it was luck. And I just feel so blessed the way everything kind of happened, but it happened perfectly for us.
Well, again, you're on a mission. So I think maybe the world just knows this stuff needs to get out there. So it was aligning to make sure a lot of parents could get some better sleep out there. How did nutrition brand Newsist increase their cart conversion rate? They became an eco-friendly brand with EcoCart. EcoCart is a free e-commerce plugin for D2C brands to offer more sustainable products through carbon-neutral ordering options at checkout. Visit ecocart.io to get started on your path to saving the planet while profiting. I wanted to move into the marketing side of things. Like, so obviously, because the other thing is like when you make those sales on Shark Tank, every single person who buys your product knows other parents. So every single person becomes an evangelist, right. If it works for them, especially, right? Like it's really great from that perspective. And you've built this, this product that people love, and it works, and you've got all this great organic stuff. And I wanted to know, when you move that into ads, like how have your results in like paid acquisition on Facebook, for instance, been?
Yeah, they're really good. So we were with an agency that was really inexpensive and pretty inexperienced from the time we started. And I chose them because like we didn't have these, $10,000 a month budget. Like that just was out of the question. And when we first started with our ad spend, I mean, we were spending, $1,000 for the month, right? Like very, very low budgets. And so to pay an agency more than I'm spending, like it didn't make sense. So this agency, we were getting good results, but like our account was a mess, and I know nothing about it. And I knew that they had a really junior person on it, that as we tried to like really scale, that's when it was very apparent that like we did not have the infrastructure to do that based off the way the account was set up. Mm-hmm. So we had a couple of rough months this year where we're like, let's like throw some gas on the fire, because like our ROAS are great. And they weren't, and we lost some serious money. And so I actually just switched to a new agency that's amazing, and they've basically like stripped down our account, reset it up. We're putting up, totally new ads. So I think, you have these moments as the leader of the company and the person responsible for the revenue and the profit. And that was a major failure on my part, because I knew for about 6 months, like we need to change. I just couldn't find the right partner that I wanted to pull the trigger with. So it's been interesting. I'm like in this real time where Like we made the switch mid last month, and things are improving. But we had a little bit of a tough time, especially with the iOS change. We were just
Mhm.
not set up for that with the last agency. But again, like we always were getting fairly good returns, but now we're getting like incredible returns because we are with a legitimate, I shouldn't say legitimate, but a more experienced agency.
And at scale too. I think when you have a great product like yours, anyone probably in the beginning could have thrown up some ads and seen some good
Right.
ROAS. But to the way you spoke about it there, that they weren't sort of set up, they didn't have the foundations to really scale those ads up, those audiences, those creatives.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that you're achieving both the scale you're looking for and the ROAS with this new scenario.
Yeah, and I remember just the day that, and I had several people review it, and nobody really had such, I guess, honest feedback as the person we went with. And he was like, "Your account is the worst I've ever seen." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And like I knew that, like I was pretty sure. I didn't know it would be the worst, but I knew it wasn't good. And I remember talking to one of my girlfriends who also owns a business, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "I just feel like such a failure because I let this go on for months, and I knew." And like, and she was like, "But no, this is an amazing moment for you because think about how much opportunity you have now, right?" So I love that perspective. And that's just in business. Like you can look at, there's a fire every day, right? So you can look at every scenario and say, either this is an opportunity for growth and it's amazing, or like, oh my gosh, we've been burning money for 4 months and didn't make a change. But so I'm super excited. I think we're going to totally crush our number for this year. This partner I'm obsessed with. I'm literally like, I owe you my life. What can I do? So yeah, we're going in a really good direction. And then we're going to start on Pinterest. We've never done that before. And I think that'll be huge for us, just that top of market. I know it's a different, profile of people than Facebook and Instagram, really more browsing, but I think that'll be great for us to get those in the funnel. And we've thought about TikTok, but I can't quite figure that one out yet. That's something we are interested in looking at, but I'm not sure.
I've just got on TikTok myself personally from this podcast, talking with brand owners,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty obsessed with it as well. I think we're going to be running some traffic there, in their business sector. But it's just such an engaging platform,
Yeah.
that if you can find the right creators, the right user generated content, the right creators, as I say, I think there's a real chance for virality there. How do you guys think about influencers and user generated content in general?
Yeah, I think with my product, so if we look at like, a water bottle, for example, you see it online, it's a pink water bottle, you order it, it's a pink water bottle, you put in water, you drink out of it, it works, right? Our product's a little bit different because, the quality is unmatched. So there's no question there. And it's super soft and everybody loves that. And we use like, the best materials and that reflects in the price. But the variable is like, will it help my baby work? Like, will this help my baby sleep through the night? Right. And we do not have a money back guarantee. And, part of that is because I'll give you an example. When we first launched, we had a parent who had a baby who was 1 month old, and they were like, "My baby's not sleeping 12 hours. Your product doesn't work." And I was like, "Well, if your baby was sleeping 12 hours, they wouldn't be eating and they'd probably be malnutrition. So
Yeah.
like, let's wake that baby up and feed them."
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of subjective what people think is sleep success or the sleep they believe their baby can achieve at the certain age they are.
Mm.
So for those reasons, we can't say like everyone, 100% because some people have unrealistic expectations on that. So then it becomes, okay, I'm spending $79 and I'm paying for shipping. Is it going to work? And so if you have an influencer that is sharing there's one thing to share my story, but I'm also the founder. I wouldn't have created a company if it wasn't absolutely life-changing for me, which it was. But when we have influencers that share basically my story, but it's their kid and their version and their age, and they're saying this changed my life, then people say, I trust them and they're like a friend to me. I would listen to a friend's opinion. And so I think for our brand in particular, influencers are super important. They are for everybody, but like when they share their story, that's what gets people to buy and say, I want to try it and I want that success too.
I love it. I'm looking at your ad library and I see you leveraging the Shark Tank ads, which is great. I don't see as many. Maybe I just have to click into the videos, but are you actually leveraging that UGC influencer content in your Facebook ads?
Yeah, and right now we are like really restructuring. So this our sales in May were a little bit lower than the previous month. And that's the first time we've had, we've literally been like straight up. And so this is the first time where it's kind of been flat, almost a little bit below. And that was because we almost virtually shut off ads, which was really interesting to do because I saw how little we were getting from our ads, right?
Mm,
Like when we shut them off, I thought, our business is going to fall apart 80%. And it really maybe went down 20%. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're spending all this money, but we're really not getting any of the return that we thought we were. So we basically shut off ads for a couple of weeks and like totally restructured our account. So we're slowly building if you're looking at the ad library, but I know there's at least 2 up there that I've seen. So they're adding things in kind of slowly that, yeah, they have like a review kind of thing. So there should be
very
some of
cool. And that content will just do extremely well on TikTok when you get around to that, or Pinterest as well, I imagine.
Well,
Uh,
TikTok though, I can't figure out because it sounds like they are not set up really to advertise. Like you can advertise on there, but from my research and talking with some agencies, like they don't have it figured out. So it's more along the lines of Pinterest, where it's just like they're just throwing it to everybody, and you'll probably get a lot of traffic to your site, but it's not going to be a high conversion. Right. Where like Facebook and Instagram, they're really dialed in and they know exactly like who to target and who to
mm.
show it to and all the user profiles. And that's just not happening on TikTok quite yet. Unless other. Tell me your secrets.
A little bit. I'm just learning about it. We're working. We have an expert who's expert. He's been on the platform for 6 months now, and he's taken
Right.
several of our clients onto it. And it's an interesting hybrid. They do have the performance levers, the audience targeting, the retargeting, the lookalike audiences, things like that you can get on Facebook. But then what you really want to do, you don't want to just put your ad content on there, because you do have this opportunity to go crazy viral. Like, you know what I mean? Like that it's one of those platforms where even with ads, you can still get a large amount of like organic reach.
Right.
Which is the really attractive thing about it for me. We're looking at different influencers that we could bring on. We're trying to get Kevin O'Leary. So if you've got a contact with him from Shark Tank, we want him to promote our newsletter for us.
Oh,
I think that could be good. So let's talk about, that's a really interesting story about you shutting off ads with your previous formation and only going down 20%. The rest of that, that's just sort of organic. That's organic traffic that continues to come in from all of the press that you've received, word of mouth. Was that really just the organic like rolling that was going on?
you know, um, I would say that, yeah, we've got some good press. Like we're in a lot of places, we're sold on a lot of retailers. So we have like a $10 off coupon on our site. So somebody might look for us and see us at Target, but then want to come to our site instead. I don't know. I mean, really, it's one of the things where I'm like, where is this coming from? Because I thought it was always Facebook and Instagram. And I will say that I think some of the Shark Tank wave has definitely died down a little bit. Like
Mhm.
we're seeing that for sure. People always love to see that you're a Shark Tank brand, and it kind of gives you this instant credibility. But as season, let's see, 12 now is on, like people aren't watching as much as our season, because we were getting that where people DVR it, or it's recorded. And I'm one of those people, like Friday night, nothing to do, like let's go look at Shark Tank. But now because there's a new season, I think it's like a little bit less. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was organic. People are searching for it, right? Like as they become more popular and more known, people are looking for this product. So that's something people are looking up. We did do a lot with like a blog and SEO. A blog writer was one of the first people I hired. So, we've had content that's lived now for a year and a half, and some really robust articles that people find when they're looking something like this. So I guess organic would be the right word. We have a PR agency, so like we're doing all the things.
Yeah.
We have retention through email and SMS. And so we're doing all of the different efforts and we have our influencers, our affiliate program, kind of all the basics that, any e-commerce brand's doing.
What's your stance on Amazon?
Yeah, so Amazon's a really interesting one. So I had this idea that if we went on Amazon, we'd like immediately get knocked off. And I think part of that is because I have one of my really good friends, her name's Tammy, and she has the company Tush Baby, and
Okay.
it's a hip carrier. And but there is a little bit different than ours because they're not able to get a patent because it's like a kind of under a backpack. So we have a utility patent. It's still pending, but it's in the works. So we're protected from that side. So I think we should be okay. But I looked at Amazon. See, I'm also the problem with me is like I don't go on social media, I don't buy anything, I don't shop anywhere, I don't do anything. Like
You got 4
my
kids.
whole team is like, who? Yeah, they're like, who are you? Like, you don't know any current events. Like, do you actually live under a rock? I'm like, pretty much. So I actually don't have Amazon Prime and I don't shop on Amazon. The only time I go on Amazon is if I'm looking for the cheapest option that is most likely foreign made that I'm going to use for a few times and then it's going to fall apart.
Mm.
So to me, that's what Amazon is. However, I do recognize that, I mean, now like Gucci is sold on Amazon, right? So it's for a lot of people, they do go on and they see it as a platform that is like Google. Like you Google something or you like Amazon search something. And I believe that number was like 60% of people use it as a search platform if they're going to buy something. So it's definitely a huge opportunity for us. And I think another reason we haven't gone on is we just like, we don't have the manpower right now. So like we're truly, when I tell you we're on like a runaway train, I mean, it is, I'm like hiring people. I feel like I'm constantly interviewing. That's what I spend half my time doing. So we're bringing more and more people on. So I hope this year we can, and if not, definitely by 2022, like we'll be on, we'll be set up, we'll have all the things.
Very cool. I see someone is selling your stuff on there from Dearborn Baby,
Yeah.
which is interesting, but it's not you. I wonder if because your product is handmade and because it's more complex, if that makes it less likely to be knocked off. You
You
know,
know, I think there's an element to that because I will say like a lot of the cost of this product is the labor part
mm,
of it. And that's what really drives it up. So I do have a bit of a hope that, you know, if we do go on, it just wouldn't be as attractive to other people. But, you know, as soon as something goes on Amazon, you know this, and everybody can see who's performing well and what, like I could look at what any other company's doing on Amazon. And when it starts selling, people start making it. And then I just felt like we didn't have the bandwidth to go and start like, you know, I don't know if we'd even need to send like cease and desist or like what we'd need to do, but it just, Amazon was so overwhelming to me that I feel like, you know, we have this website and then my background, I have, as you know, I'm a salesperson at heart. So I love the sales part. So I love interacting with the buyers and like talking about strategy at Target with like my Target rep. And so I love that part. And Amazon to me was just like, I don't know, really confusing. But yes, we need to be on there. Like people tell me that all the time. They're like, you've got to get on there, like get over your fears. And so I did just hire a head of sales. She starts in 2 weeks, and that is one of the things I've assigned to her. So
very
you
cool.
figure out how to get us on there. So you'll see us on there sometime in the near future.
Love it. One of the things I noticed on your site that we always talk about is the ways that people can increase their average order value. And you've got some interesting things. You've got your bundle that takes a baby from an infant all the way up to a toddler, I imagine,
Yeah.
with the 3 sizes. How you've also got a really interesting info product. You've actually got the sleep basics like training guide.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about these additions and how they've helped increase your average order value?
Yeah, you know, the sleep basics guide is something that we put together really for that parent that's like you know, I don't know what appropriate how many hours my baby should sleep or you know, when I was looking for when I was with my first because now I'm full-time mom so I kind of have the rhythm but I never knew like when should they be sleeping, how much should they be sleeping, what does the schedule look like, when should they be like I never really knew that and you know, most of this information you can find online, but we partnered with a certified sleep consultant. So she created it based off her, you know, program. And so that's really helpful for parents. And you know, if somebody's kind of confused, they can reach to that. The having the two, the interesting thing about that is we had so many parents that would buy one and then they would come back like a week later, 10 days later, and then email our customer service team and say, hey, I only bought one, you know, but I want to buy a second. Like, can I take advantage of that bundle? Because with the bundle, it brings you over $100. So you get free shipping and then
Mm.
you also get $20 off. So it's a really good value. And you know, sometimes we let people, I tell my customer service team, like if they're nice, sure. If not, you know, no, I shouldn't be saying this on air because then everybody's gonna email us. But so then we started putting that like in the product page where like if you want to buy a second one when you're on the first one, like and get free shipping, and we see that code is used tons. Because it's a product that you know people don't want to sleep without. Like we'll have people reach out and go, oh my gosh, I wasn't sure if it was like the sleep training or the sleep sack, but last night it was in the wash and it wasn't dry yet, and we slept without it. And it was horrible. We were up all night, and like you know we need a second, or people want a second for a grandparents' house or daycare. So buying two is definitely really common. So bundling it together just makes sense. And then, customers save money and they save shipping. So it's a high purchase for us for sure.
Love it. And I mentioned earlier just about how every one of your clients or customers kind of becomes an advocate when it works for them. I'm sure naturally, but you've also built out an affiliate program, and I also see you have a sleep consultant program. Can you talk
Yeah.
about the difference between those two situations and how they're working for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our sleep consultants, so I had never heard of a sleep consultant, but basically what they are is they're a coach for sleeping. So now I feel like I could be a sleep consultant with how many people I've talked to and all the research and studies that I've done and read and medical community I've talked with. But the really interesting thing about baby sleep is it is not a born with behavior. It's a behavior we need, like everybody needs to sleep naturally, like biologically, but it's not a skill that babies have. So if you think about the first time that a baby goes to eat like the baby food and you put it into their mouth, they're like, oh, they're like spitting it out. It's the same thing with sleep. So they truly do need to have some degree of training. Now, does that have to be a formal coach for everybody? No, but baby needs to go into their crib on their own, awake, and then learn this is what it means to fall asleep. When I am in this environment, that is a cue to me that it is time to sleep. So some babies, you just kind of put them in their crib and they sleep great. A lot of babies don't. And that's where, you get these parents. And then a lot of times it's actually us as parents because nobody likes to hear their baby cry. So we take them out and we rock them to sleep. And then you put them in their crib. And then they wake up in the night and they're not going to go back to sleep unless they're rocked. So we create these bad habits for our babies, or, feeding to sleep, or putting in a swing to sleep, these different things. And so their sleep coach is just like a sports coach. They literally train you and give you the guidelines and the schedules, and all that. So when we started thinking like we should work with sleep consultants, it was because they would reach out to us and say, oh my gosh, like I've recommended your product to a couple of people and they're so happy with it. Like just want to just giving us feedback, like just wanted to let you know how much my client loved it, or they'd like email us and say, our sleep training with your sleep sack, it was like an amazing result. Look at this client's email. And the emails are always like so over the top. They're so like truly people use words like, godsend, save my life, save my marriage. And it's true. Like
Yeah.
so it's really rewarding getting those. But that's when we thought, these sleep consultants are anybody who has a follower, one person, you're an influencer. Like I'm an influencer in my family because I influence the way my kids dress and the food we eat. So like everybody's an influencer. So these people are in essence an influencer because they are telling their, audience of people who aren't sleeping what they should be buying. And so we have a program just for them. And then we have a program for affiliates, which we haven't done a good job with. I need to do better on that. But that's really just like if you're a mom and you've tried it and you want to tell your friend about it and like you get $10, they get $10. We haven't really promoted that. We haven't done a good job with that. And then the final is influencers, like true influencers. Excuse me. And so we are trying to build that program as well. And a lot of this just comes from the fact that, it seems so obvious that we would like hurry up and do this, but we're a really small, lean team. So it's like, where are we going to put our efforts and where is going to be the most return for us? And I think, again, we have such a huge opportunity to grow and scale with these programs. But we really need to get like somebody like truly full-time dedicated to it.
You mentioned something off the beginning just about the dark period that you had in those early days, and these emails that you get where people are saying these really incredible things, godsend, life changing, all these things. It's parenthood is such an interesting time because it's like you're going through this thing and everyone else has gone through it, so you don't, but at the same time it's hard to overestimate how dark it can get and how stressful and how but it's this interesting position where it's going to be some of the most stress you'll ever feel as a person when you're in those situations, but at the same time you're sort of like, oh well, I guess everyone goes through this, but it's so I don't know exactly what I'm saying here, but it's really cool that you have a product that really addresses this super common but very impactful situation.
No, I know exactly what you're saying because I think it's people have just accepted that this what it is, but it doesn't have to be. Like that's the thing, and I, as somebody who had three super amazing experiences and I had one terrible experience, like I know it doesn't have to be this way. And so as parents, like we need discipline, right? Because it's a lot easier just to co-sleep with our baby and feed them to sleep, right? Some people choose to co-sleep, but for me, I didn't want to. And so that was just something that was really hard. Those nights you fall asleep while you're feeding the baby. And it becomes this hard time, but it doesn't have to be. You can have, your baby sleep trained, and you can use, some physicians call it like a prop, and it's truly something that's helping them and assisting them on their journey to sleep on their own. So our product, could be a prop. So you can use different props, and that can be anything like a noise machine, blackout shades. Maybe your baby doesn't need a Dreamland baby sleep sack, but just you're putting them in a regular sleep sack that's non-weighted. But when they see that sleep sack, like that's their cue that it's time for bed. Like a lot of babies will start crying when they walk in their nursery, and it's because they know they're going to sleep and they don't want to go to sleep. So it can be a really good time. We just need to kind of like put in the work and do, however we can.
Train the baby and train the parents. I think that's the big one too. Is it a lot of it?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, it is like anytime as a parent, you're gonna, especially as kids get older, you get what you give. If you come to a situation with stress or angst or anger, you're quite often gonna get that back. And I feel the same is true, with knowing a system and knowing something, okay, this is how I should try it, or this is a way that works for other people that I should try, and knowing and having to be able to stick to it in a way and not, go to that easy solution right away, is pretty cool. All right. I've got some rapid fire questions here. Can you name a D2C brand that you're a big fan of outside yours? You were just saying you're not much of a shopper, but are there any brands that stand out?
Okay, one that I just bought, what are they called? Native deodorant. Because I'm trying to go all natural with, or less toxins.
Yep.
All my stuff.
Love it. Okay. And then if we were to grant you a $50K grant to be used in your marketing, where specifically would you leverage that right now?
Very easy question. I would pay some big influencers and have them talk about our product.
Nice. Do you have like an ideal influencer? Do you have someone in mind for who would be your ideal influencer? We love to put things out on this podcast and maybe they're listening. So,
okay. Ideal influencer. I totally love her. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name. She's the gymnast and she's really tiny, and her husband is super darling, and they're this cute couple. Shawn Johnson, that's her name.
Cool.
Yes. Yep.
That would be good. The one that comes to me for mine for you would be like Jennifer Garner. I feel like Jennifer Garner as a mom would be like a really good.
I don't think.
She what? Sorry.
She doesn't have babies.
Oh, maybe yeah. She doesn't have baby. You need to have people in that moment right now.
Yeah, they need to have a baby. Shawn's baby, I think, is I want to say she's pregnant again. Is that right? Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even go on social media, but I did follow her for quite a while, and her and her husband are just so cute, and so they do pranks on each other. So really funny.
Amazing. So if anyone listening knows Shawn Johnson, let's see if we can connect Tara and Shawn. Awesome. I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. If people want to know, if I've got any listeners in the audience out there who are having trouble with sleeping, including my co-founder, Jeff, who we're going to arrange something after this for, how do you recommend they get in touch with Dreamland Baby Co?
Yeah, so we're really active on Instagram, so it's Dreamland Baby Co. And then we're attempting to be active on TikTok. We do make a lot of videos that nobody's watching, so come watch us there. And then on our website, dreamlandbabyco.com, we have a chat bot, so you can talk with our team there. I get on there every once in a while, so you might get me if it says like your customer agent is Tara. That's me talking, because I love staying connected with our customers and knowing what they're thinking and feeling. And then of course, email, call us. It's all on there.
Nice. All right. Thanks, Tara. Good luck in your with your family this week and through the summer, and go tend to your son.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Eric.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.